All right, we are live.
Hey,
How's it going, William?
yeah, going good.
Let's
Last one of the year.
last one of the year. We made it. All right. Looks like we are live on YouTube. Uh, check out X and see if we're live there as well. And it looks like we are live. All right, I'm gonna repost this. We're live. Today we are talking about the year in review. We made it, William. It's December. How do you feel?
Tired.
Tired.
Yeah, it's been a long year.
Long year of feature updates on the accessibility checker.
Yeah, feature updates and a bunch of other things.
Yeah,
Non-accessibility checker things.
non life, raising
Yeah,
children.
yeah. Just pretend that doesn't happen. That's probably the hardest part of everyone's life.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it looks like everything's going out. Uh, so yeah. So welcome to the live stream. If anybody's joining or watching after the fact, we appreciate it. We are going to take a little bit of a look back. It's kind of like those old sitcoms, right? Where they would have that episode that was like the flashback episode.
The filler episode.
The
Yeah.
what? I mean, yeah, the filler episode. Don't call us out. It's not a filler episode. This episode is going to be packed with all kinds of helpful information about accessibility checker and what we did this year, and kind of the struggles, a little bit of the how the sausage is made for the year. Um, but yeah, so this is going to be our flashback episode, our greatest hits of the year. So well, we're glad that you're joining. If you're not aware, we have this live stream every couple weeks, and we talk about new features and upcoming features and changes to the accessibility checker. And this is intended to be a little bit of a technical deep dive, but also a little bit of an informative live stream for users of accessibility checker or potential users of accessibility checker. Accessibility checker is a WordPress plugin that is an automated accessibility scanner to help you identify accessibility issues on your website and fix those accessibility issues. So, what do you think, William? We jump right into the year in review. So
Yeah, might
I
as
thought
well.
I thought we would start with kind of the big hitters, right? Like some of the major things we did this year. So um it wasn't just fixing bugs, squashing bugs, and creating new features in accessibility checker. We actually released two new plugins this year. Do you want to talk about the first one?
Yeah, so the first plugin we released this year was the multi-site plugin. It allows users to basically have full control over how their licenses get applied across a multi-site network. Um, some users might have, you know, 5 site license, but a network that contains 7 sites. They get to prioritize which site to get those license. When I say 5 sites, that may not be so troublesome to visit each site individually and apply your license. But when we're talking about license sizes that reach, 50 licenses, people are not going to want to manually go to all of those sites. So primary reason for this plugin is management of the licenses. As a side benefit, all the things that are required to rig up to manage licenses also allows you to see all of the errors and warnings across the entire network as well. So, in addition to managing your licenses, you can also see the current stats of all of these sites in the network. You don't need to have the license activated on all of these sites to get stats. Obviously, we have the free plugin that runs completely without a license and has full scan, all the same rows, all built in. So all of the site stats will be available to see in this plugin, in addition to managing the license. And while you're managing the license, you're also, if you have the professional single site license, you get the plugin, the pro plugin. But on higher tiers, you get access to some of these add-ons. And we, again, all the things that were required to be rigged up to manage the licenses meant that we could also manage all of these add-ons all from this one single page.
Yeah. And that is a great explanation. Also, settings. Did you mention settings about?
I did not mention settings, so why would you configure 50 different sites when you can just come here, configure one, and then clone your settings across all of them?
Yeah.
So this is probably I haven't actually used this feature myself. I think this probably saved a few people many hours of time.
Yeah. So you can choose a network default site, any site on your WordPress multi-site as the default. We have a drop down to choose which site, and then you can select the other sites, and then you can choose copy settings from the default site, and you apply that. It's actually going to take all the settings, take the settings from that one master site and copy it to all the other subsites. So yeah, so this is a very very awesome plugin for people managing large networks, for agencies, and this is an add-on plugin to to the agency customer level plan for Accessibility Checker.
So users with 20 licenses.
Yeah. So
you're not going to want to visit 20 individual sites in a network.
Right. And a little bit of a teaser for like things to come. We have had some internal talks about bringing some of this, being able to export and import settings to the Accessibility Checker Pro plugin for people that are setting up large networks of sites that are not inside of a multi-site install. So trying to bring that feature to our premium pro plugin as well. Cool. So that's multi-site. Anything else on that?
I don't think so. I think this covers all the features. It doesn't have a lot of features of its own. It just takes advantage of the features of all of the individual network sites.
Yeah, totally. And we released this plugin early in the year. We actually started it I think late last year, and then of course we went through development, and by the time we got everything ready to launch, it was the new year. I think we launched this in January.
Wow, that long ago.
Yeah. So any of our current agency license holders, if you haven't tried it and you're running a multi-site, give it a try. So the next big feature, so we mentioned this in our last live stream, so we'll kind of just touch on it here and not go too deep, but the next plugin we released is actually not an Accessibility Checker add-on. Sure, it's complementary to Accessibility Checker because it's kind of accessibility adjacent, is the Archive WP plugin. This is a premium only standalone plugin that doesn't require Accessibility Checker. And it is a plugin to help you manage outdated content while maintaining accessibility compliance. So has a lot of features in it, like where you can take your post and migrate them to a custom post type called archived content, and it'll store all the metadata. It'll migrate the terms to a new taxonomy so that you can have front end views to filter those. It'll automatically assign 301 redirects. You can revert these changes as well. If you migrate a post and you realize that, I shouldn't have done that, you could actually restore that to its original location. And by location, I mean its original custom post type, and its taxonomies will be restored to their original location as long as those taxonomies still exist. But not only is it utilitarian in that way that it gives you this tool to migrate between these custom post types, it also comes with a full set of blocks and patterns to help you create the front end page. So we have 3 blocks in there. For the there's a disclaimer. So this is for accessibility compliance, labeling your content as archived content. And just a little side note on that, and the reason why you would want to archive content from an accessibility standpoint is a lot of laws and regulations around accessibility will allow for an exclusion of archived content. So if you label content as archived and you don't update it after that fact, that it can be considered archived content, and it may be excluded from certain accessibility requirements. So we've got these blocks. So we've got a disclaimer block in there. We've got a filters block, which holds all the filters. So you can filter by the custom post type. You can filter by the original custom post type. You can filter by the migrated terms, and you can filter by a search, keyword search. And then there's a third block, which is actually the loop output, which is a dynamic, it's dynamic, dynamically loaded content that loads your loop, and it loads it real fast, and it refreshes without a page refresh. And then we've taken those blocks and we've given you a couple patterns as well, so that you can apply this directly to a page with just one click of a button. You've got this pattern for like a left align layout or a right align layout, and actually we removed the right align layout. Sorry, the left align layout and the center align layout, because it really doesn't make sense to put filters on the right hand side, and it causes some weird flow issues for response.
Tab index
issues. Yeah, totally. And so the Archive WP plugin is a full featured plugin to help you manage archived content, and we worked really hard on this in October. William and I were are getting carpal tunnel from all the typing or all the prompting.
I think you did an awful lot of prompting on this one. By the time I came in, I had to clean up some of that prompt work.
Well, that's an interesting take, right? So we've kind of the history of Accessibility Checker is that, Accessibility Checker is getting ready to turn 5 years old. So next year, Accessibility Checker will go to kindergarten. We've raised, and 5 years ago, AI was not part of our development workflows, not at all. I mean, it didn't exist. OpenAI may have just been a recently founded company at that time. So we used to write every line of code by hand, and nowadays we've got a lot of AI implemented in our workflows. And I think the Archive WP was probably the first big plugin that we tried to implement that to its fullest without going down the road of vibe coding, which you're never gonna get
I don't see people making viable products.
No.
With vibe coding. Maybe next year.
Yeah. So we call it, what do we call it? We call it pain prompting. Is that what we call it?
I think it was a bit painful sometimes. Although, to be fair, the AI built a lot of things that might have been quite complicated for a human in this plugin. And it did require cleanup. I don't think the AI is quite at the point where it writes fully production ready code yet. Someone is still going to have to follow behind.
Where it's kind of interesting, like with the Archive WP plugin, how the AI would lead to discovery in some sense, where you would kind of you'd use the ask feature to ask questions about, should this redirect, or or it would come up with come up with ideas, and you're like, what, that might be a interesting feature to add to the plugin. So in some sense, it's good for discovery of features when you're kind of massaging a plugin like Archive WP into its final state, because that was one thing that kind of I found interesting about Archive WP was the initial idea of it, and a little bit of background on that is that this was actually a plugin that we created for a customer, for one of our remediation customers that needed something similar, and we had the idea, well, other clients are going to need this. We have more clients that need this. And why don't we make it so that it's something that can be utilized across many websites? And as any developer knows, making something for one website and making something for all websites is quite the feat.
It's quite a lot of additional work to make it work across
Yeah.
websites.
So the original version used like shortcodes to output stuff and was very opinionated on its design and layout, whereas Archive WP is very non-opinionated on the design and layout. Now we've moved.
I will step in actually here and say that while the original implementation of this on the client website was based on shortcodes, and we have built this plugin based on blocks, shortcodes are still available and they are fully equivalent to the blocks. So if you have a website that does not use the block editor or a custom post type that is not yet block enabled, you are still able to use these blocks wherever you choose just by implementing the shortcode. And secretly, you might discover there's some additional features of those shortcodes that weren't exposed to the blocks.
Yeah.
Someone wants to do some digging in.
Yeah. So there's a lot of attributes under the hood, and that's what William's trying to say. Yeah, and Archive WP does have a onboarding wizard that will actually help you build this page. It'll create the page if you haven't created it, or it'll let you choose an existing page, and it'll actually implement the block patterns or the shortcodes with a tiny bit of HTML markup to kind of get some layout into a classic editor page. So what we've tried to do with Archive WP is we've tried to make this process as easy and seamless for the end user to one, get the plugin installed, to get a page created, and to archive their content. Literally within a few clicks, you can have all your content archived into its own custom post type, isolated from all the other custom post types with disclaimers for accessibility compliance. And it took a lot of work to get from that initial piece that we made for the client to a fully functional premium plugin. So it looks like we have Daniel on the live stream.
Oh, hi, Daniel.
And Daniel says, thank you for all the improvements this year. Well, our pleasure, Daniel.
So I was on a call with Daniel a couple of weeks ago debugging the thing, so it's nice to see people.
Oh, awesome.
People coming in.
Cool.
So any more problems, just reach out.
Yeah, we're here to help, Daniel. Thanks for joining us. And look forward to a lot more next year. We are in the planning phases of features and new things for Accessibility Checker for next year. Cool. So those are the major releases. So 2 new plugins this year. But we didn't neglect our existing plugins, and we have done a lot on that side. So this next feature, I don't know if feature is the right word, but this next area that we implemented throughout all the plugins, it was kind of huge. And if I'm being a little honest, William and I were a little apprehensive to undertake this because we knew it was going to be quite the undertaking. So
this was a lot more effort than expected, and also exposed some interesting things for me about the way WordPress handles this under the hood. This was my first deep dive into this in a very long time.
Yeah. So do you want to say what it is, William?
Yeah, so we tackled internationalization of our plugins this year. So we have made them fully translatable as far as we could. If you find anything that's missing translation functions, let us know. But we're quite confident we've caught everything at this point. And we translated the plugins, our entire suite, into 30 plus languages, at least 32, but some plugins have a couple more.
Yeah. So what does that mean? Why would we do this?
Well, accessibility of content is not necessarily just about how the content behaves in the browser. Sometimes it's inaccessible for someone because they don't speak English. And that, is a problem for, well, more than half of the world does not speak English. And now our plugin is available to a lot more people who will now be able to take advantage of these features. And the users of our plugin becomes more accessible due to the translations, and the users of those people's websites become more accessible due to the fixes that we provide or help these site owners do. So it's partly about reaching more people, but
Mhm.
it also is it's just the right thing to do,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I mean, basically, translations and internationalization is accessibility. Like, and it really is. It actually is taking the accessibility checker and then making it available for more people. And in doing so, right? And it goes to show sometimes your own like apprehensions, or I mean, dare I even say our own biases, when you kind of say, we don't need to do that, right? Or like, that'll take so much time. It's not worth the time or something. And you don't think it's really going to have a benefit. To our surprise, we think it has had quite the benefit in our install counts from different countries. Germany being probably the top country that we've seen the most adoption from after implementing this internationalization. Now, there's some, that coincides with a lot of the European Accessibility Act coming into place, and Europe having or not Europe, Germany having probably some of the more stricter requirements.
I think they're definitely a first to implement type country where they lead the way in a lot of these things. In addition to Germany, though, I have noticed an awful lot more Asian users
Yeah,
coming in, and identified by the fact that I can't read their names sometimes.
yeah,
Coming in Korean, Japanese, so lot more people in languages that I would not have expected. I mean, these are countries that might not have the same regulations in the way that um, Germany does,
yeah.
but these are still using our plugin, and maybe they would have if we hadn't translated it, or maybe they wouldn't. Like we'll never know because we now offer these translations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was great, and I think it's a little bit of us practicing what we preach, and we implemented this just before our team went to WordCamp Europe, and so that we could take us as an American company flying over to Europe, saying, "Hey, we're here to support you as the European Accessibility Act comes into place." It was kind of on us to kind of practice what we preach a little bit. If we're going to support these European countries and other countries, Asian countries throughout the world, that we should make this plugin readable to everybody. And I think it was probably one of the best things we did this year. And it
It definitely has. It was worth the time.
yeah,
Can't say that about every feature that we try. You hindsight is great. In hindsight, we were mistaken to put this off for so long.
yeah, I think so. So from a technical perspective, I mean, how do you how do you translate a plugin to that many languages? Like,
Well, before we say how we get into translating it for so many languages, let's just maybe talk a bit about how translations in WordPress works, because this is the first time I have undertaken a large translation project in WordPress since the more common, I want to say commonization. I don't think that's a word, but it's the closest that I can get to. Um, Strings inside JavaScript files is far more common now than it would have been just 5 or 6 years ago. And
right,
in PHP, we have well understood translation functions. We use the double underscore type functions, and it does static analysis. using getText. So it finds the translations, it converts it into a pot file. Translators can take the pot file, they can generate individuals for their each language. So it is static analysis. However, when you have JavaScript in your plugin, quite often you use minification or uglification of the JavaScript code because we always want to deliver the smallest packages possible to the client. And when that code has been minified or uglified, it is really quite difficult to discover where those strings are inside of the content. And this was a challenge I didn't foresee being a problem, but it ended up actually being a huge issue for me, is how to find these strings inside minified JavaScript files, because we can find them quite easily in our source code because it's nice, broken into lines. All of the tokens still exist there. But in the minified files, we had to do some configuration hurdles to get it to keep those translation files there. And once you have those translation files, they actually don't get built in the same way and delivered as PHP translations do. There's actually JSON files that you also need to deliver to the client side whenever there's a translation available. So yeah, translations are a lot more complicated than they used to be if you have to support JavaScript, which in this day, most of us have to support JavaScript translations.
Yeah. So, so we had some technical hurdles to get over. We actually had to kind of set our mindset a little bit around it too, where it was like our plugins our strings are mostly all translated. There might be some like low hanging strings that were kind of missed over the years, and it was kind of like in our heads we're like, well, we just need to we need to get the mechanism in there to translate these, and these translations are a little bit AI assisted, and we need to have the workflows built into our pipeline so that these translations happen with every release. And then once we have that, then we can kind of go back and clean up code where there are some strings that may not be translated correctly. So in our heads, it wasn't like, oh, we've got to go through 5 plugins, fix all the strings. No, it was like, let's put the mechanism in place. Things are translated. All the strings, like 90% of the strings are ready to go. Let's just put the mechanism in place and get the translation files for those. And then we'll go
and
through
it
and
turns
clean
out
it.
that once we had put the mechanisms in place, it became much easier to discover where we had missed the string somewhere, because we could, I'm pretty sure I could confidently navigate and read our plugin in French at this point, because French was the language that I chose when I was debugging things. But if you're reading, the sentence in French and suddenly you see an English word, that's missing a translation function. And that really did help us to get, I want to say almost all of them, but at very least we have covered 98% of all of the strings in our plugin.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So let's move on to Accessibility Checker Pro. So what did we do this year in Accessibility Checker Pro? So we expanded the scanning capabilities. We added the ability to scan post type archives and taxonomy terms, which we've spoken about on a previous changelog live stream. Do you want to speak to that at all, William?
Yeah, so that was a 5-year desirable feature that took a very long time to implement. That feature predated me even working on any of this code. I didn't know that was a feature that was desirable at first, but it turns out quite desirable. Steve actually came up with the way we could solve this under the hood is effectively building our entire plugin is set up around the ethos of post IDs, and archive pages do not have post IDs, which was the real complication here. And Steve had the idea of, why can't we just virtually create these IDs? And as such, we do. We just virtually create a post for every single one of the archive terms that want to be scanned, and we can store our data on the virtual post, allowing us to scan every single archive page you have on your site, which includes custom post type archives, as well as all your taxonomy archives like categories, tags, or any custom taxonomies that you create that have archives visible. So yeah, all of those pages are now scannable, and you can get results in exactly the same way that you would get results for typical posts. They're reflected in your overall site report, and if if you have the exporter plugin, you can export all those results as well and filter them to the individual archive that needs fixed. I will say that I discovered that you usually don't need to scan every single archive. So we do have some form of like smart sampling built in, because if you have one category archive, it's probably the same as all the other category archives in terms of its construction. So you theoretically only need to scan one. But what we do have is we scan one that is representative of a maximum number of posts, so it will show pagination, and a minimum number of posts, so ideally it won't have pagination. And so we cover at least three taxonomies, or each 3 pages per taxonomy type.
Yeah.
In the smart sampling mode, you can of course turn on full sample, and you can just scan every single page, which is probably what a lot of customers might end up doing. But
right.
That can take a very long time if you have thousands of terms.
And lots of custom post types. Yeah. So this was like William said, 5 years ago. This was probably feature number 1 that was on our list, and it just kept getting pushed because of the complications around it. Like William said about our archive pages are dynamically generated pages. They're generated on the fly basically, and there's no post ID. If there's no post ID, there's no post meta, and the accessibility checker requires post meta quite a bit. And so us coming up with us putting our engineering heads together and coming up with a unique way to slot that into the plugin without a complete refactor of the whole plugin was a huge win for us and a huge win for our users. And so now that they can get more coverage in their scans and have more assurance that their website is being scanned for accessibility compliance. So along with that, William, you want to talk about the next one?
Performance wins.
Well, before that, there's a bullet point above that.
Yeah. So you have a post page and a front page in most WordPress websites, and previously we weren't always scanning them depending on what the configuration is. So now we actually go out our way to make sure that we do scan your blog page, and also your front page. If your front page is almost always going to have an ID, but your blog post may not if you have not assigned a static page to it. And if you had not assigned a static page to it, we previously might have missed it. But now that isn't the case. We will actually try and scan that page all the time now.
Yep.
Due to the fact that it's technically an archive for the posts and is now discoverable and virtually exists.
Yeah, so just like it's not an archive page, but but it is kind of
it's kind of an archive page internally.
Yeah, but we can't capture it as an archive page the same way. So we've gone the extra step to kind of consider that as well. Now, there is some other considerations beyond archive pages and main post and blog post page. And there are other things that we're looking to add in, such as author pages. And was there anything else besides that?
So I did previously look into, for my own use, Elementor templates. So, not only can we scan actual things that are considered as pages, we can probably quite soon start scanning things that are considered as partials, such as Elementor templates, page templates for Gutenberg. Any number of individual components that page builders implement that are available through some form of URL rewrite, feasibly we can create a virtual post ID for and scan in a live page type of way. So no immediate plans on what we will scan next, but floodgates are ready to open on that one. There's lots of options of what we could scan.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So like you said, performance. So this year we
Amber did actually just comment in FSE templates.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, totally.
Soon, TM.
Yeah. So full site editing templates. Yeah, exactly. That's those are little pieces that we could probably push through the same mechanism that we did the archive page. And now there's a bigger picture here too, right? Like we can keep kind of chasing the WordPress rewrite template part thing, or we could switch how accessibility checker works and actually start pulling from direct URLs based off of sitemap or some kind of scraping of the website. So yeah, totally. So performance. This was kind of a big one, but I feel like this was kind of a feature that was implemented kind of under the radar.
It was. So this was actually performance of the full site scanner was looked at partly due to, I don't want to say a great many, but a larger than other issues type of support request that comes in is to do with the full site scanner, particularly how fast it is. As we all know, it isn't actually very fast in a lot of cases. So as part of some of those complaints from users, we looked at how the queries work, how we gather the posts, and first off, we actually made it immediately faster by dropping one half of our scanner. I mean, we dropped the faster half. We had the two-part scanner. We dropped the faster half, so we're only left with the slower part. But that does speed up the scanner generally. But in addition to that, there was query optimizations and some caching added that actually does for. It won't benefit the majority of sites, but for large sites, you're looking at 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 times faster sites for very, very large sites. Like if you have a site that has 100,000 posts on it, the full site scanner will be dramatically faster for you after we made those query optimizations. And there are definitely more of them to come.
Yeah. We'll talk about this here in a little bit too on why we dropped that first half of the scanner. When William says we dropped the first half of the scanner, what we're talking about is it used to have two passes. There was a one, it was behind the hood, under the hood, it was a PHP scan, and then it was a JavaScript scan, because we had some rules that were written in PHP, and all we had to do was parse HTML for that. And then we had some rules that were written in JavaScript, which actually would pull up the actual website page and scan it from the front end with the full rendered page.
Actually, at first, all of the rules were in PHP, aside from color contrast. So we would run the JavaScript scan only for color contrast at first, which unfortunately is the slower half of the scan.
Yeah. But more accurate half.
Yes, dramatically more accurate.
So,
I mean, that's why we could not do color contrast in the PHP scan the first half.
Right. And actually, even going further back, when we talked about accessibility checker, it's getting ready to turn 5 years old. That the scan was all initially PHP, and even our color contrast was PHP. But out of the necessity to make it more accurate, we started switching that to JavaScript over time. And like I said, here in a little bit, we'll talk a little bit more about that switch to JavaScript. But aside from that, William has done a lot to implement to make the plugin much more WP CLI compliant, or I don't know if compliance is the right word, but ready. We've been working on a lot of our own commands.
So selfishly, because I had actually created some commands for my own development purposes that later on was answered or mentioned by Chris had mentioned that a client had asked for some of these WP CLI commands, and I was able to say like, oh yeah, I've been using that already. That's that's mine. I had to do a bit of cleanup to make it production ready, but now we have shipped a handful of WP CLI commands, and we have added a couple more over time. Primarily, maybe the most useful one for an average user would be a programmatic way of getting the individual scan stats for a single page. If you had such a need, or the full site of scan stats as also if you had such a need. And I can imagine a few people might programmatically want to grab them rather than having to log into a whole bunch of individual sites and check their numbers.
Right. Yeah, and things like license key activation, deactivation, adding the license key, things like that. And a lot of that was done in prep with some of the partnerships that we've uh, put together this year with some of our hosting partners, so that they can be able to run CLI commands in their pipelines to be able to uh, activate and deactivate and add license keys to the plugin. One of our more recent partnerships is with Cloudways, and some of these requests came from them as well to be able to do these things.
Yeah, well, technically, a hosted partnership now can retrieve a key from a customer and then make everything from that point onwards entirely seamless in their platform. They could, activate the plugin, install, activate, and trigger scans across some of the pages.
Yep.
Like all entirely programmatically before a user even has to make it anything other than the purchase to get their key.
Right.
And actually they could just install free as well. So some of these platforms can now seamlessly get that up and running.
Right. So we're doing more to expand accessibility checker for hosting companies as well, so that we can make it available to their client base and make integrating it into those hosting plans more seamlessly. So hosting companies, reach out to us. We'll get you an integration, and we'll get up and working. So man, we're running long on time and we got a lot to get through. So I'm gonna
Yes.
rapid fire some more things here. So on Accessibility Checker Pro workflow, so I'm gonna run through some of these real quick. We added filtering by post status, so whether it's a draft or published, etc.
And this was a highly requested feature. People don't want to scan their drafts because they don't see it. They might have 10,000 drafts.
Yeah,
they're never going to be published.
Yep, totally. So you can filter those out. You can actually see the post status inside the open issues table in Accessibility Checker Pro now. We added landmark selectors to the issues table as well. We're talking about this. We added landmarks and free as well. We're talking about that, allowing users to pinpoint the specific location of landmarks. So we've just surfaced that inside of the open issues in the Pro plugin. We improved rule descriptions and metadata to provide better context on accessibility issues. This was a huge undertaking that Amber took to rewrite some of these descriptions and how to fix it. We've added severity to issues, and we've added some kind of intelligent severity sorting to our issues in the UI to help you surface not only the issues with because it used to sort by errors and warnings and then a secondary search on the issue count. So now it is extended to sort by severity and then issue count. So what we're trying to do inside the plugin is always expose to you what you can action on and get the most results from. So what else? Let's see. And then, like I said, the severity. So that's a lot of a lot of the big features that we've added to Pro. Of course, we are always squashing bugs and fixing other things in that regard. But let's move on to Accessibility Checker Free. We call it Core sometimes, but the plugin that you can get from WordPress.org. And you want to run through this first one, William?
Yeah, so we added rescan and clean issues buttons, and these are just nice to have user-facing features. These are things that we do programmatically quite often by going into the database, cleaning issues. No longer do we have to do that as developers, but being able to clear issues sometimes fixes edge case bugs if someone changes post types or does unusual things, disable the plugin for a while, turn it back on. So cleaning issues just resets the post, and then you can just click to rescan, and you can immediately get fresh results.
Yeah.
And you can also use that, like if you have, I haven't thoroughly tested this with a lot of different builders, but if you use a front end page builder, you now have a rescan button on the front end that you can then scan as you change your content. It works with some builders. I haven't tested all of them.
Yeah.
If you have a builder that it doesn't work on, let us know.
Yep. Yeah. We know that it works really well with Elementor. We
I
are
think Beaver Builder works with
yeah,
for the most part.
right, and we currently are working with Etch to get accessibility checker working fully with the Etch website builder, and we're looking forward to implementing that. And if any other builders have problems, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll get those fixed. Um, and
As another nice UI feature, we no longer overlap icons on the
yeah,
front end. So if you're using the front end highlighter and an issue has two different warnings or one warning, one error assigned to it, those icons will no longer overlap each other. They will be stacked neatly side by side. So you can click on each one individually and see the relevant information about that specific issue.
yeah. Where before, if you had multiple stacked right on top of each other, you had to use the arrows, the next and
Yeah.
previous arrows to get to them. So
And sometimes those issues might not be next to each other in the order stack. So you would jump up and down on the page.
yeah. Cool. So, new smarter rules. We are always trying to refine our rules to make them better. Amber's always opening tickets for us with new ideas on how to make the rules smarter and more intelligent and help with her own audits of things. This first one,
Yeah, so it's a shame that Daniel isn't still here. He did say he had to drop off, but this was what the call I had with Daniel a few weeks ago was about another improvement we made to the video transcript detection. So if videos were not or the transcripts were not directly adjacent in terms of the markup, there might have been cases where it was missed, and that was the case on Daniel's website. So that is now fixed, and the detection of video transcript should be far more reliable for everyone based on that change. And it was already quite reliable. There was just some edge cases that meant it might not work.
right? And landmarks, we talked about this a little bit on when we were talking about Pro, but we have added landmark location feature to show exactly where landmarks are in the DOM. So that's in the front end highlighter. It actually will list you what the landmark location is in the details tab on a post or in the open issues from the Pro plugin. And you can click on that and it'll open it up in the front end highlighter and highlight that landmark location. So just doing more to try to show you where issues are. And we actually have plans to expand that to be able to start segregating out issues based on which user role should be seeing which issues. So basically, an editor probably doesn't need to see issues in the header and footer. Those are global issues.
Well, they may want to see them still, but they probably can't fix them.
Action
not in
on
a
them.
position to fix them. So maybe you might want to show them only actionable issues, in which case an editor might only see issues that are directly inside the content area or the main tag.
Yeah. So cool. Then so links, we improved checks for anchor exists, missing title attribute, and new window warnings. Was this one you worked on, William?
So I think I've touched most of these rule tweaks over the year. I cannot remember which ones exactly. However, a lot of these were improved from something we're going to talk about in a minute, the JS conversion. So a lot of these rules got dramatic improved accuracy due to some switchovers, including the next one that's in this list here, the underlying text as well. And I will also put Amber a bit on the spot here and call out that there might also be a naked links rule soon, pending some documentation work.
Yeah, that's my favorite one, naked links.
That's actually quite a common problem that
right
we should be flagging and detecting for
well, what is a naked link?
It's when you just copy and paste the link directly from your address bar, and it might contain all those letters and numbers that they use for tracking, or it might be nested 16 levels deep. And for a screen reader, every one of those characters is going to be read out, and that just is a horrible experience for someone who might not be visually impaired.
Yeah, yeah, we are. So we have implemented the naked links rule, and this is a little bit how the workflow works, right? So a recommendation for a a rule gets added to either our ideas board or as an issue in GitHub, and then sometimes William or I have a minute, and we're like, we'll pick this one up, and then that was easy.
It never takes just a minute, but they're
Well,
not
this one
always
was
that
more
long.
complex than that, right? But
Yeah.
and then we get it, and then we assign it to Amber, and we wait for documentation. And once we get documentation, then we release it out to the world for you guys, because releasing a rule without documentation on what does this mean and how do I fix it and what are the implications of this is not a great user experience. So but not only that, I mean, like, when you get the idea for, like, we try to compare, like, we use Axe Core in our plugin, but an extremely extended version of it. We hook into it, we change it, we group rules together. We don't use some of their rules. We use some of our completely own custom rules. And in this case, William, the recommendations that came from Amber about what is a naked link was far more verbose than like what, say, Axe Core does to detect those, right? And you good?
I think my internet's
No,
being a bit off.
oh, okay.
It's
It is a bit off. Okay, so William is now frozen, so I will talk.
there's something. Yeah.
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 So
You talk. Give me 1 second.
all right. So while William goes and kicks his kids off of the internet, I'll talk about
That's what I'm doing.
naked links. That's what he's doing. Yeah. So anyway, whether it has a protocol on it or doesn't have a protocol on it, making those decisions on what actually constitutes a naked link, I think what we've come up with goes pretty far to making it a very usable rule that doesn't create a ton of noise for the end user. So that's a little bit of a sneak peek on a rule to come. But to that, William, since we're kind of talking about rules and JavaScript and Axe, can you talk a little bit about why we decided to finally jump and just migrate everything over to JavaScript scanning? Oh, I can't hear you. Muted?
Let me know if you can hear me. Oh, maybe. Is that better? No.
Yeah, there you go. I think you're good.
Back.
Try to talk.
Yeah, I think I'm back. I just disabled Netflix.
Oh no. He's frozen again. So
Oh,
yeah, you're still cutting out a little bit there, bud. There you go. You're back.
I'm back for 1 second, but I'm probably going to disconnect again in a second. I'm gonna have to shut down some stuff on their end.
You on the router cutting them out?
Yeah, and I'm not cutting out the right things apparently.
That's right. So I mean, we used to scan in PHP. We kind of migrated to a hybrid approach, and then this year we went full in. We did a major sprint to get these all converted over to what we call JavaScript rules. And what we mean by that is this is scanning code and logic that can be run on the actual rendered page. So we can pull up a page, we can insert our scanner into it, we can scan the page and get vastly more accurate results than we ever could with just straight up PHP parsing. And
yeah, well, the perfect example probably is the color contrast.
Yeah,
it's the first one that was transitioned, because there's you have to read all of the JavaScript, all of the CSS, and all of the HTML to try and determine what color an object might be inside the DOM, and that might actually be influenced by external JavaScript that runs that you'll never really be able to know in a PHP scan. So unless you render the page, you won't know the actual color. And you may also not understand what the background color would be to do an actual comparison. So once you render the page, you know all of those things with, a guaranteed, like, for certain. There's no question in what color is on top of what color if you actually render the page. And there's a lot of other rules, like the underline text rule we briefly mentioned earlier on. So there's a bunch of different ways you can underline your text. You can literally just use text decoration, a style rule, but you can also use border bottom on a row, and we cannot detect that in PHP with static analysis. We cannot determine what a thing looks like. However, with JavaScript, we can see that, and it is literally the difference between making an educated guess and actually being able to see what the thing is going to look like to a user in their browser. So there's a huge difference between static scan and a live page scan. The downside of the live page scan is that it takes up more resources and it's a bit slower because of the nature of how you have to render the page, but it is millions of times more accurate.
Yeah, and you need to leave the page open and let it run, because we need to use your browser to determine these things. Whereas when we were doing the PHP, the static analysis, we didn't need that because we actually were not rendering the page, and so it does require a little bit more resources and a little bit more complexity to do what it does. But this is actually what makes accessibility checker different than almost any other scanner. And this is what actually brings like enterprise SaaS accessibility scanning that cost a fortune. This is what actually we're doing to take that and bottle it into a WordPress plugin and bring it to a vast majority of users that don't have the resources or don't want to pay for those super expensive enterprise accessibility tools.
But a lot of those super expensive tools are just running Xcore right out of the box. They're not doing any customization or any tweaking. And I was quite surprised that with our bucket of, however many rows we have, we only actually take directly verbatim from Xcore a handful, maybe 5 or 6 of those rows, and the rest of these custom rows are extensions of Xcore rows, or some of them are very WordPress specific rows.
Right.
So we're not just going to give you generic answers the way some of these like online scan tools are going to manage. We're literally going to interpret the results of the scan and provide only the valuable items as far as we deem. We might not be pulling out all of the valuable items as of yet from Xcore, but over time we will be adding more rows, more custom rows, and more things that can be scanned against those rows.
Yeah, because we're not just looking to build like a base level compliance scanner. We're actually looking to build a full featured auditing tool to help you audit a website. And we expose what we call warnings, which are actually things that we're prompting you as an auditor or just a web developer or a website creator, a content creator. We're actually prompting you to say, hey, we can't programmatically tell you with certainty that this is an issue, but we think it is, and we want you to look at it. So we're doing a lot to help come alongside you and to assist in that audit of these websites to make them as accessible as possible. So along with that conversion, William, we found the need to really make sure that if we're writing and extending so much of Xcore, we need to ensure that what we're doing is right and that we don't have any regressions when we change other rules.
Yes. So before I say how we did this, let me tell you how we used to do this. We had the WordPress website. It had a bunch of content on that website, and we would update the plugin on that website. We would visit the website, scan the page, and we would see what it finds, what it doesn't. And we had lists of things that we expect should pass and things that shouldn't. And that was all live content on a live website that we had access to. And that was how we previously were testing this. Now we have almost every single role, or every role that we transitioned in the most recent batch. I think it's probably 95% of all the roles that we run in our scanner now have fully automated JS tests. And this was an excellent use of AI, we discovered, because we had the content for most of these roles elsewhere. And we were able to tell the AI, here's the content we have, generate these tests that automate verification that these things pass or these things fail. And every time we make a change to a role, these tests get run and it tells us whether we have broken a role or improved the role. And if someone comes to us with an issue that these roles do not detect, we just add it to these unit tests and we can change our role or change our tests till we get it to pass or fail. And not like we legitimately want to fix exactly what's reported. So we take the markup snippet directly from these problematic websites and verify them against our actual role. And the way Jest works is it literally spins up and tests against this exact markup. So we have a pretty high degree of certainty that if we fix it in our tests, it's fixed on someone's website.
Yeah, and this is a living and growing test suite, like William said, and we're continually adding to it, and we don't remove these. It just builds up. I mean, we've got thousands of code snippets that get tested when these rules run, and we can even do like we even do like test driven development in respects to that, where if say Amber says we should do this rule, right? We should do this check. We should check for this certain thing, and this is what I think would be a failure, or this is what I think would be a pass. We can actually take those, put them into the test first before we even write the check or the rule, and we can actually take that and then use AI to prompt it to say, hey, can you try to make a rule and a check to go along with this? So it's kind of
It's sometimes hit and miss. I actually do think the AI works better the other direction, where we write some of the code. We start off with basic unit tests, and then we ask it to look at the code we've written and extend the unit test to make sure that things we change don't break something, or to highlight things. The AI has actually been surprisingly good at identifying gaps in the test that we have. So we might have a series of 10 tests and we can prompt the AI, and the AI might come back and say, here's 15 edge cases that you didn't consider. And we just instantly put them in and we run the test. And sure enough, some of them might pass, some of them might fail, or some of them might be incorrect. And we need to continue tweaking the rule to make sure that the answers we get in the end from the tests are exactly what we expect.
Yeah, and as far as regressions, like we have some rules that actually will share like helper code across multiple rules. And if you modify that or you modify a certain rule, you have a lot of checks and balances there to ensure there's no regression.
Yeah, like for example, if we modify how we handle ARIA hidden in terms of visible content, if we modify the helper that we use for that, that could break a whole bunch of things, because that is actually a base requirement for a lot of screen reader backed roles. If it's ARIA hidden, the screen reader won't ever see it, and that might be a problem. We might actually want to flag that it's hidden and tell you need to unhide this. Or if it is hidden and it's problematic content, maybe we don't need to tell you that that's an issue because the screen reader can't see it. So it is important that that works.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that our helper does not get broken.
Yep. So, I mean, that's a rundown on what we are doing on our end to ensure accuracy, to make sure that your issues are actual issues, not false positives, and that we are continuing to build a huge library of tests to ensure that with every update that that all of our rules continue to work and that we don't create any downstream problems. So we are running short of time. I think it's time for another lightning round to finish up.
Well, you go lightning round and I'll maybe enable I'll turn Netflix back on.
Yeah, so we did some dashboard tools in the plugin. We integrated accessibility checker into the site health. We're all adding some more information into there to not only help you see that there. So now in the site health, it actually flag if you have accessibility issues on your website, and it flags them, the different warnings that come with the site health. So we're trying to expose accessibility checker there. When you run site health, you can see if there's accessibility issues that need to be addressed on your website. We added an admin toolbar with quick links. Now this is the most easy thing, but it's one of William and my favorite things is now having just a toolbar with links in it that we can quickly jump to our settings pages.
Go straight to the settings page, no longer having to double click. Right. Or the fixes page specifically.
Yeah, the fixes page. So we're just trying to make things more accessible and easier to navigate to. So we have some add-ons. We did some work on add-ons as well this year. We have our export add-on. Our export add-on now includes WCAG levels and the severity level in the export. We are actually looking at adding some more features to the export to be able to export issues at the post level. That is an upcoming feature that we're looking at for the exporter plugin. And then in our audit history plugin, we added a filter to customize which user capabilities are allowed to view the audit history page. So,
yep, and this one also came from a customer request. So, anyone who has any issues or any desirable features they have, send them our way, because we almost always try to implement the things that you request, because we can only come up with so many great ideas on our own.
Yep.
You always come up with some more.
Yep. So those are some of the top things. And like I said, a whole litany of bugs that have been squashed throughout the years, but we do not have time to go through each one of those. But just these are all the things that we're doing to improve the accessibility checker, to make it easier for you to use and to make it more accurate and to help you make your website as accessible as possible. So what are we doing next?
Next it's Christmas time.
It's Christmas.
We're taking a break. But then
yes.
But then after the break, we're doing email reports.
Right.
And not just email reports. These reports will also provide access to some new information that you have to jump through some loops to find, such as identifying the top 5 pages on your website with issues. So, yeah, these reports will be available to everyone, I want to say, not just page users.
Yep.
So, yeah, more to come on that.
Yeah, so this is actually a feature that's in the works right now. It's not even part of the 2026 roadmap, but it's a part of this year's roadmap. But as you said, the year's winding down, and Equalize Digital, we like to treat ourselves and our team to a nice week off at the end of the year, just as a little thank you for all the hard work and to have
forcing me to spend time with my family.
Forcing you to spend time with your family. And so basically what it is going to be the free plugin. You're going to be able to connect it with your Equalize. We call it MyDot. So it's your dashboard on my.equalizedigital.com. You will be able to connect your free plugin with the dashboard. If you don't have an account, if you got the plugin from WordPress.org, you can create an account on my.equalizedigital.com and make that connection. And once that's connected, we will get your summary report at certain intervals, and we will send you emails about the accessibility status of your website, a little report on, and like William said, some new features in that report that aren't currently in the plugin, where we're identifying the top pages that need to be addressed, so that you can get that right into your inbox. You can see what pages have problems with, and you can action on those right away. And there is a lot that goes along with that as well. We have thoughts and ideas, and these are just ideas about we can expose those reports inside of your my.equalizedigital.com dashboard, and we can start to do a little more historical. We can expand the audit history plugin that we have. We can start doing that at an even bigger level, and exposing
Yeah,
some of that
I'd
to.
also want to mention that audit history is currently only available on higher tier licenses, and with the addition of the email reports, that is actually going to introduce at least the currently versus last access to history of
Yeah,
issues for free users as well. So this is not just all the fanciness is not going to be only for paid users. Free users will absolutely get a lot of benefit from this feature being available as well.
right. Yep. And what it also does is it allows you to collect the accessibility status of multiple websites into one dashboard on my.equalizedigital.com.
Potentially just one email as well, monthly.
Yeah. So a lot in the works there. In December, Equalize Digital goes into kind of planning mode a little bit, and we start to plan out what we're going to work on for the next year. And we are currently in the throes of that this week, and we're doing a lot to plan new features for the next year. And I'm super excited to share what those are with you all uh, in future live streams. Once we all get a unified decision on what those are, and we start
I'll
to.
let slip of one that maybe might not make the roadmap, but I'm absolutely going to do here, which is some more advanced rules. You might want to
Mm,
look at whether your tabs are correct, as opposed to just do tabs exist on the page or they
mm.
built
Com-
correctly.
Component level accessibility
There might
scans.
might be a set of rules in the future. There
Hmm.
might be some other experimental rules.
Well, we don't want to give these ideas all away. Our competitors are watching, and they're gonna
Maybe.
they're gonna steal all of our ideas. No, no, it's fine. But no, we are always thinking about these things. Like William said, component level scanning. We can identify a component. Why don't we just scan the whole component to make sure it's compliant? Tabs are hard. They're hard to make accessible. So why don't.
Hard to make accessible from a development standpoint, but actually quite easy to recognize when they're wrong from a
Right.
programmatic standpoint. So
Yeah,
let's do
totally.
that.
Cool. Well, do you have any closing thoughts for 2025, William?
It's been a busy year. Done a lot more than we had time to go through here. Made a lot of development improvements in the plugin consistently, which is reaping the benefits of how quick we can get these features out now. And hopefully next year is a year full of features. Now that we've done a lot of that cleanup.
Yeah. Yeah, so my kind of 2025 recap is that yes, busy is a word I would cap the year off with. A whirlwind year of busyness, and but that just shows what Equalize Digital is doing to and what we're putting into this product to make it useful for our users, and our commitment to pushing accessibility forward from a technical perspective of identifying and fixing issues, and continuing on with that, and what other areas can we help in this audit and remediation of accessibility. And I just want to end by saying, any listeners or customers of or users of Accessibility Checker, thank you. Thank you for trying out the plugin. If you haven't used it, please grab it. It's free. It's extremely full-featured free plugin. None of our rules are gated behind a paywall. All of
Yep,
our
you
rules,
get all of the scan capability for every post, the
yeah.
same as everyone else.
So I just want to say thank you. Anybody that's tried out the plugin, all the people that we interact with, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to give advice. We're happy to look into bugs, and just want to wish everybody a happy new year. And we look forward to getting back to it next year.
Yep, I think we will see you on, is it the 7th of January?
Yeah.
The 8th, maybe. The week
Yeah.
after we're back.
Yep. Next live stream will be probably around the first week of the year. So look for us then. Thanks for joining us, and